I want to preface that I hate reading, so coming into a genre purely about storytelling, I was already doubting the fact that I would enjoy it in any way. But still, I like to view every form of medium through the same open-minded lens, giving them a chance despite my negative point of view, which is how I've come into contact with Korean media like Train to Busan and Sweet Home, or Japanese stuff like rhythm games and the entire Metal Gear franchise. So, I've picked up a few visual novels to fully understand this genre and why it's so looked down upon, especially here in the West. To do that, we need to answer these 5 questions. What is a visual novel? Why are they misunderstood? Are they video games? What's the appeal of them? And what makes a good one? The last one's subjective, so let's answer the other 4 with the games I've been playing and a bunch of other cool ones. So let's start with, what is a visual novel? And in a way, the answer is very simple. It's like a book, but with pictures. Yeah. Visual novels actually stems from the adventure game genre, which is by itself an all-encompassing branch. They originated from Japan, with the first one I can find being 1983, the Portopia serial murder case, where you play as a detective attempting to solve a classic murder mystery with your partner, Yatsu. The game is all about collecting evidence from character dialogue and items from the environment. There's also a hammer for hitting things. You know, exactly how detective work. The game can actually be played in a non-linear way, making each playthrough a bit different from each other, even coming with multiple endings as you choose who to arrest. Which, spoiler, the detective is the culprit, and I hope you won't be mad at me because this game is literally double my age. This game, especially its more popular Famicom port, was one of the first to inspire many of the Japanese adventure games, 2 of which, according to Wikipedia, is Hideo freaking Kojima, the legend behind Metal Gear, Death Stranding, PT, and Eiji Aonuma, the lead director of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and his critically acclaimed sequel, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. And there was a large emphasis on character interaction, with the game only progressing if you talk to certain characters. And here is where I like to point your eyes towards the 3 main boxes that would go on to be emulated. The visual box, the text box, and the choice box, forming the basic templates of all future Japanese adventure games. This style of presentation is very similar to modern visual novels. However, the game that went on to imitate Portopia's success focused more on problem solving. I am not old enough to play or experience any of these old titles, but a part of me enjoyed this formula of puzzle solving and choice that ultimately changed the course of the game. Take Police Knot, a passion project of Hideo Kojima made in 1994 that came with this beautifully drawn illustration of the 90s era anime. You take on the role of a detective named Hideyuki Tanaka, or Jonathan Ingram if you're playing the English version, and set out to solve a murder kidnapping case. See? Told you it's inspired. It felt like I was actually watching an anime, only this time being right next to the detective as they uncover an even deeper, more sinister plot hidden behind the mystery. And you may be wondering where the knot part of the police knot comes in. Well, the game is set in 2040, where the first self-sufficient space colony, Beyond Coast. Oh, by the way, Tanaka had training in 2013 to become a police officer for Beyond Coast, but there was an accident and he was thought to be dead till 25 years later. So when he came back, he became a private investigator and was asked by his ex-wife to find her missing husband, only for the ex-wife to be murdered right away. This forced the detective to travel to Beyond Coast and uncover a whole organ trafficking ring. There is so much more stuff I left out, and I actually recommend you play it via emulator on the PC. Visual novels didn't come into life until it went through many evolutions. In fact, nowadays, the VN genre itself is also a large umbrella, ranging from games such as the Danganronpa series, where you solve mysteries behind a series of murder victims, to hybrids like the Persona series that combines visual novel aspects with RPG elements you know and love. I couldn't figure out exactly what was the first game that defined the genre, but much like the question of the chicken or the egg, I can only assume that they evolved naturally over time into what they are today. A while back, while researching for this video, I posted on YouTube asking if there's any visual novels I should try, to which I got a bunch of response. Thank you, Alpha from Punishing Grey Ravens. Your contribution will not be forgotten, and I hope you are doing well. Fate Stay Night actually started off as a visual novel created by Type Moon. I've only ever watched the anime, also the bridge series, and thought that maybe I've already seen everything that has to offer. Oh man, I was wrong. The visual novel is like all the anime combined, but 10 times larger, and it's not that complicated once we break it down. Did you know that each of the anime series is a route in the visual novel? Meaning you could technically start out with any of them. The main difference between the source material and its adaptation is the deeper understanding of every character in the story as well as the different endings. Especially our main protagonist, Shiro Emiya. Shiro's story begins with his normal school life, waking up in a shed after his childhood friend. He's also got cool magic power, which kinda sucks right now. But that's okay. At least he's really good at fixing things. It's cold today. Normally it doesn't get this chilly in Fuyuki City. I gotta get home soon. Yo, is that sword fighting I hear? Oh my gosh, those guys got super cool clothes and weapons. I want that. Oh, I'm sorry. Shiro runs as fast as he can. He takes a moment to breathe, wondering what just happened. He couldn't hide for long. The blue man appeared before him and impaled him swiftly in the heart. Before Shiro dies, he hears the voice of a girl. He thinks he knows this girl. Huh. So much for wanting to be a hero. The voice fades as he went into a restful sleep, only to find that he's okay. There's still blood on his uniform, but the only thing killing him now is his head. He rushes home, only to be pursued by the man in blue. Here, we can actually get a bunch of information on how this blue man feels. He's bored and sloppy. In fact, he even stopped and chatted with Shiro for a bit, expressing a somewhat friendly and begrudging tone, like he's sorry he has to do this to a kid who was there at the wrong place and at the wrong time. Shiro uses a makeshift weapon and attempts to defend himself. While doing so, Blue Man even gave Shiro some chances. Shiro here is surprisingly crafty, being able to think on the spot and still making a run for it towards the shed. That's when he accidentally summons Saber, the blonde woman you might know due to how famous the Fate IP is. This is the part where we learn of a secret mage organization and a whole battle royale called the Holy Grail War, where at the end, if you are the last one standing, you get a wish. What's special about the Fate series is how thoroughly the writer developed each character, and you can see that this is a common theme throughout every good visual novels. Every character just seems so alive, and there's also a sequel / after story that takes place a few months after the Holy Grail War ended. You get a glimpse of normalcy within everyone living out their lives. There is still tension in the air with the whole shadow monster and time looping thing, with you following our boy hero Shiro Emiya. But that's like 20% of the story, while the other was the character interaction and dynamics. Like, after everyone fight and, spoiler, die, I felt as if my soul was recovering after reading through just the mundane. Though, I can assure you that it's anything but boring. Remember Blue Man? He's content with hanging out and fishing, and I relate to this more than you can think. I recommend the Fate novel, but watching anime is good too. Just don't play the gacha game. There's a common misconception in the visual novel medium, and it involves two subgenres: dating sims and erogeis, with erogeis being the main culprit. See, earlier I spent a few minutes talking about the Fate VN without mentioning that it was originally an eroge. If you know anything about Japanese games, then you'll know that they love to include fan service in order to sell their games. Fan service is a simple subject that's hard to debate over. But there's a variable you have to understand. Sex sells and there's no changing that. It's literally biological needs that's being used by the developer and companies to take advantage of their consumers. What catches the eyes first? Exactly. But here's the thing, it's the substance that keeps the player there. As in, yes, I'm here for the cool, cute girl, but also, whatever is happening here is intriguing to me and I'm all for it. Fan service comes in all shapes and sizes, and it's a subject that's amazingly covered in this video, which I'll link in the description. Because of this, people often overlook the hundreds of other genres out there like horror, sci-fi, time travel, and so on. But let's talk about erogaze and adult content in general. There are two trains of thoughts with having adult scenes in a game. One thinking they are unnecessary and weird, while the other, well, they bought the game for a reason. However, let me present a third road. Sometime a game can have adult scenes in them and still be incredibly compelling. But you kinda have to take my word with a grain of salt because I've literally only played 3, with 2 of them being accidental. I don't think we should look down on a game with adult content in them when they're done in good faith. And in order for us to see that, we have to talk about Katawa Shoujo. Katawa Shoujo development on its own is already an interesting topic in itself because this game is made by a group of people from 4chan and it's free. I didn't know anything about this game other than the fact that people said it was good for beginners. The story begins with you following Hisao Nakai, who on a cold and snowy day was confessed to by a fellow classmate. This was the first time he had been confessed to, and his heart was beating harder as she spoke earnestly about her feelings. Maybe it was beating too hard as he suddenly gets a heart attack and was put in a hospital for a few months. After recovering and dealing with his new heart condition, he was sent to a school for the disabled student. This is where you'll get acquainted with the 5 main heroines and their own branching narrative. Also, if there's a hell, I will be going there because there's this girl named Emi Ibarazaki. She's cheerful, one of the main cast, and a genuinely happy-go-lucky person. Her view on life is quite positive for what she's been through, but the very first time I met her, look, just watch the video. Just around the corner of the hallway, something hits me in the chest with the force of a runaway train. Ouch. Opening my eyes to see a pair of saucer-like green eyes looking up at me. Oh no! Before anyone say anything, it was unexpected, okay? What's important to know is that this game isn't about fetishizing disabled girls. Yes, there are adult scenes, hence why it's an eroge, but it's one of those stories that just happens to have adult scenes in them. What I find incredible about Katawa Shoujo's writing is that each of these girls' story doesn't shy away from their disability and how it affected their life. It also doesn't make it its main focal point of the story. Without spoiling much, the girl Emi who you'll meet when she rams into you has lost both her legs in an accident. Despite this, she keeps a smile on her face and continue on, using track as a way to cope with her past. She offers to help you with your heart condition, encouraging you to exercise and even joining her in the morning practice. There's a moment in your daily run where Emi will goad you into catching up to her. Naturally, being a competitive person, I sped up, pumping those arms and pushed my heart too hard, causing me to collapse. Forgot about that heart condition. But while she kept a smile on her face, going through such a traumatic experience doesn't heal so easily. She's scared of being vulnerable, and that's something I can relate to. Emi was my first route, and she's my favorite because her whole story is about self-improvement, persevering, and to never give up. I make it sound more simple than it actually is, but it's really the core message. Each character feels incredibly human, and the best part is, it's not even a sob story for you to pity them or to be a savior. Their disability affected them and how they moved around the world, but that's it. It's a part of them, not their whole personality. It's one of those games that work best if you go into the story blindfolded as I have. Check it out on Steam, they have a censored version there. But what if you don't like romance? What if you're into the horror, the scary stories that make you lose sleep for a week because you couldn't get a certain morbid scene out of your head? I hate this game, but in a good way. Nothing I've read up to this point in my life has ever prepared me for this. Look, the best way for me to show you is to let you experience the opening the same way I did. What you're looking at right now is a distorted view of reality due to a brain injury our main character has sustained. Everything he sees is not real, but to him, it is very much a living nightmare. The story is captivating. It actually glued me to my seat, yearning to see what's next, only to be traumatized again and again with how well thought out the reveals are. In a way, you can somewhat understand the main character's point of view because this is what a horrible situation would do to someone's mental state. Imagine if you woke up in a fleshy world where everything and everyone is terrifying all the time. Your whole world had been replaced. The distorted voice from the people you should know, the mangled roadkill that should have been your simple meal. Then, in the midst of that world, you meet someone normal. Someone who also doesn't belong. You start to cling onto this light, this personal connection, because it's the only thing that makes you feel normal. But here's the thing. This game is an era gay, which means yes, there are adult themes. Given the context of the putrid world, it's kind of horrible to think about. Being the person I am, I cheered when I got the bad ending. Although each route is purely based on your own perspective, so technically there is no bad ending. The game isn't too disturbing as it is shocking, but it's not for the faint of heart. So far we've been spending a lot of time talking about the Japanese side of visual novels, neglecting the fact that we now live in a modern era where anyone could make a visual novel. This means we can have visual novels coming from places like the US with the funniest game I've played this year, Class of '09. And to demonstrate my point, here's a scene out of context.
Come on, what? But
We have a runner! Freeze!
God damn it! Oh my god, no! He actually fucking shot me! What the fuck is wrong with you?
Maybe now you'll think twice about breaking the law.
You shot 5 bullets, so she'll think twice next time?
Yeah, it could have been less, but I fired with my eyes closed. Little inside challenge down at the precinct.
What? Are you actually fucking insane?
You know, you remind me of my wife a bit. I want to fucking kill my wife!
Oh my god, what?
Shut your mouth before I blow your fucking brains out on the tile floor!
No, please don't. I'm sorry.
Now that's more like it. I'll call you girls an ambulance. One sec.
I've only ever played the re-up version, so I don't really know what the other two are yet, but this game can only be described as white girl boondocks.
And we want it in 5s. You know the purple 5?
Oh, I love the purple 5.
Yeah, purple 5s.
As in, it does have heavy-hitting subject matter, and the main character isn't even that good of a person, combined with the comedy being delivered by these amazing voice actors.
It's like not even good music. Anyway, so mom was crying, packing up the moving boxes, and that's when she told me we're moving out of state, and I just got settled. I said, fuck you, I'm living with dad. He's just a neighborhood down. I put the boxes down, go over, knock on the door, and boom! A gunshot! My second Christmas killed himself! I walked in. Floor looked like a whole-ass video game, just blood everywhere. And get this, his suicide note was stuck to the fridge with a Cookie Monster magnet. All he wrote on it, Nicole's fault. I'm Nicole, by the way. Hi, what the
There's also this Filipino game being my recent favorite called Until Then. An incredibly beautiful, emotional roller coaster of a story following Mark as he navigates his life on what he wants to do. A coming of age story, but there's also this natural disaster causing widespread destruction, and it's not even the main plot because really the time you have with the ones you care about is... This game made me cry like 3 times. Also, Kathy's the best. As visual novels evolve from the Japanese adventure games, bringing them to the modern PC market, developers have started to innovate and advance the medium into something more complex, creating these visual novels that borrows from other genres to make for a more compelling experience. Unfortunately, nowadays, it can be really difficult for any traditional visual novels to be popular outside of Japan because a lot of people are turned away by its massive catalog of text and content. But the thing I would like to say against this claim is that wouldn't you want a good game to have an abundance of great content? And I'm not talking about DLC add-ons that big games like to slap on to make another $30. No, I am talking about the long hours of amazing qualities from these titles. Take Until Then, which I finished in about 10 hours or so, only to realize that there's an entire other half of the game with Act 2 and 3 being hidden right behind the end screen. And I got this game for $13. But let's take a step back real quick. Let's answer the question of, are visual novels games? A game can be defined with being interactive by having an end goal, rules, and challenges. Using Mario as an example, your goal is to save the princess. The rules are, you have to navigate the stage from left to right. If you die too many times, then the game ends. The challenge is the little Goombas, Koopas, and many other obstacles, making it harder for you to get to the end. Every single game in the world contains these three principles. For example, soccer, with the end goal of putting a ball into the net. The rules are you can only kick the ball, and the challenge being your opponent trying to stop you from kicking said ball. Now, let's look at visual novels. In every visual novel, the story literally cannot continue without you, the player, selecting a choice. But the end goal of every visual novel is to get to the end of a route. Now, this goal isn't explicitly shown to you and is hidden beneath whatever the story is presenting at the moment. For this, we'll be using mycopsychosis as the example. In mycopsychosis, the end goal is to survive a cordyceps-like infection spreading throughout the city. It's treated like a typical snowstorm, only a lot more dangerous, seeing that the infection can start just from a single spore entering your body. The rules are you have to stay indoors. Do not let anyone who's infected in, and make sure you plan out every single move since time is of the essence. The challenge is simple, and I'm going to spoil the entire game soon, so give it a try. It's a great game and it's free. There are 5 endings in the games, with 2 of them being the bad one. The challenge comes from you understanding the disease and making the correct choices, which is just basic reading comprehension. After the TV broadcast ends, you can head right into your bedroom and use the computer. This will bring up the mycopsychosis website, letting you learn all you need about surviving the spore storm. From here, I skimmed the info and... a phone call. Oh, it must be our neighbor. She recently moved here and expressed her worries about the disease. Apparently it's only been happening near the city areas, but she feels better having someone to talk to. The basement door is broken, so there could be a risk of infection there. Let's see, the front door is good. Knocking. But from her basement? Somebody is on the other side and they want to get in. Common sense dictate I keep the door closed. Apparently his name is Hugo, and I guess he's just walking around. Kinda suspicious. Okay, now back to the wiki. Huh? It's Anna. This time she asked us about drinking water, whether it's safe or not. Let's see, spores cannot dissolve in water and the system is far from the city. So it should be safe. Thank you. Cutie? Oh, at least she'll be fine, I hope. Oh, doorbell. Oh, hi. Apparently he's some kind of government agent named Ray. However, he doesn't seem to be wearing a mask. He asked us to let him in, and again, common sense dictate that I keep the door closed. He says he'll come back later. Not that that'll change anything. Honestly, if I was in this situation, I'd probably be in my room and on a computer right now. Dang, already? This time, Anna asks about what to do for a freezing temperature. She doesn't have a change of clothes and worries about the heater since it'll pump air directly from the outside. Though, there is a dust filter. Now, if I remember correctly, the wiki states that heat can kill the spore at 100 Celsius, but who actually turns their heat up that high, especially in this economy? So, I guess she'll just have to go without it. Damn, back already? Ray came back with a mask this time and asked to be let in. Obviously, because first of all, the spores will fly in, and secondly, how's he gonna wear a mask now? He's probably already infected. He tries to guilt trip me, but I ignore it. Though he is getting cold and I kinda do feel bad, a blanket won't fit, so I went and gave him a towel. It's not much, but I'm sure it'll help. Hugo tells us about his cat Al and how he longs to go back home after all this. Maybe invite us to a drink if we survive together. Not even a few minutes go by and Ray is already back at our doorstep. This time attempting to entice us with some new water filters. And he forgot his mask. Yeah, you're not coming in. Oh, it's Anna. Hello? Anna's more anxious this time. She tells us about the potential intruder banging on her door. The lock is broken, but the door hasn't gone down just yet. Luckily, the person is gone, but she isn't sure on what to do, fearing that she might end up dead here. Okay, focus. What did the wiki say on defending yourself? Right. Don't fight, hide, and wait till the storm is gone. Then call the police. Thank you for everything. Let's go get a drink or maybe see a movie. Anna, I hope you survive this. Oh man, they say dangerous situation bring people closer, but I didn't expect to get a date with the god. Oh, Hugo, my bad man, did you need something? Hugo actually thanks us for helping him out and even invite us to get some drinks after. Man, this is... Oof, Ray's back. Let's see, what did he bring this time? That's not blood. It's... mold? Hugo's knocking already. He's asking to be let in. He feels lonely. The towel wasn't comfortable enough for you? No. I tell him to wait a bit more and maybe even think about Al. That makes it worse. I really miss my dog. Come on, please just let me in. The dizziness was getting to me. There was nowhere to hide, and soon I began to sprout. Admittedly, this jump scare should have been obvious, but it scared the crap out of me twice while playing and for some reason while editing this video. What we just went through is by definition a game, and I trust that you can see the difference between a book and a visual novel. To put it simply, yes, visual novels are games, and it's in those worlds and choices that makes them fun. Some even take it upon themselves to go down a hybrid path, which spawns in a bunch of really cool concepts like this puzzle one called Ghost Trick, a short game where you play as a ghost trying to figure out your own cause of death as well as preventing others through time-traveling poltergeisting. Or my two favorite world being Limbus Company, a Korean turn-based game set in a dystopian capitalistic society where you either adhere to the district rules or perish alongside its waste. And Arknights, a tower defense game set in a sci-fi post-apocalyptic world ravaged with disease and constant natural disaster, all revolving around a story that deals with morality and survival. Which leads me into a section of this medium that started my deep dive in the first place. Now that we're in an age where the AAA industry is declining, whether that's due to greedy cash grab, absurd pricing, or just generally bad video games, the indie scene has begun to sprout its own incredible creations. Take the work of Sukuban's Games, which has this stylized charm that can only be found in the works of Passion, with one of the most well-known being VA11 Hall A, otherwise known as Valhalla. You play as Jill, a bartender working in Valhalla that has to deal with customers' demand while also making sure to pay rent on time. It's like my real job where I also have to listen to someone complain about their life, only this time I don't get paid $2,000 a day. Holy crap. What I find unique about this game is that the choices comes down to either you making the drinks they want or making the drink they need. Do you pour them a light drink so that they can wake up the next day without a hangover, or dump the entire bottle of Karmatrine to get them absolutely plastered, allowing them to open up more about their past? I actually discovered this game back when they first collabed with Girls Frontline, another gacha strategy game featuring military girls in a dystopian sci-fi world. Wow, I guess I really like this genre. There are also visual novels that hide this story under the classic cliche of visual novel tropes, like Doki Doki Literature Club, a popular VN that made its way around the internet in 2017 for its shocking reveals and meta interaction, and Hatoful Boyfriend, a visual novel where you play as a newcomer to an all-bird school with the twist being that you're the only human on campus. You go through the day leveling up your stats and romancing some pigeons who, I'm not really sure if they're giant birds or just little guys walking around the street. But underneath the dating sim lies a dark secret. There's a part in the game where the main character goes on a run for a few hours, going over some landmarks, with one of them being a destroyed city. The character makes no comment on what we're seeing, and it's even more apparent that there's a deeper story after you get an ending. There's a section in the main menu called The Archive, where snippets of what might have happened to the world begins to unfold. Then, once you get about 50% of the notes, something strange starts to happen. There were genuine moments that made me double take on whether I'm even playing the same game or not. And keep in mind, I bought this thinking it was a joke game. I wish I can express and talk about just how cool and interesting these titles are without spoiling the entire story. Unfortunately, I can only record so much before my 1 terabyte of storage runs out. But there's one game I just have to talk about. A short indie visual novel that takes this concept of psychological horror to a whole new level. Milk inside a bag of milk inside a bag of milk has a simple premise. Help the protagonist buy milk. As you begin playing, there's this oppressive ambience that sounds like running current. The protagonist rehearses what to say to a cashier once she gets to the store. Here, you are given two choices, with the latter being oddly condescending. Already, you can tell that something is wrong, but you can't really put a finger on it. The girl answers directly to us, breaking the fourth wall as she pretends she's a protagonist in a video game. She's anxious about her trip, repeatedly practicing on what to say and even stumbling off the pavement every so often. Again, we are given two choices, with the second one being belittling her efforts. She gets stuck on the tiny details of how to walk normally again, only snapping out of her fixation once we remind her that the store is about to close. But when we get there, the first person she meets is something. I can't really make it out of what we're supposed to be looking at right now, but the girl and the creature keeps repeating their lines, which seems to go on forever until we ask her what it is that it's trying to say. She explains to us that it is trying to scare her with the letter O. She's afraid of this letter. When we ask her why, she is stuck in the loop again until she musters up her courage and responds back with an O. This causes the creature to scurry away, finally letting her reach the cold aisle. There, she sees bags of milk. She feels hopeful, like maybe she can finally finish this Herculean mission. But we reel her back in, reminding her that she's here to buy milk, cutting off her short little victory. There's another fourth wall breaking moment with the girl commenting on visual novels before we once again remind her that the store is closing soon. She makes her way to the register where she sees this odd looking fellow. It demands the bag of milk from her hand and won't give it back even as she begs. But please, Mom will throw me out the window if I get back without milk. Lost in this confusing turn of event, we interrupt her and is given three choices. They hate you. You are pathetic. Pay for the milk. I choose to remind her about paying, and we finally get to leave with the milk. We walk down the familiar street past the same gas station we started at. During the walk, she feels tired and overwhelmed by a seemingly simple trip, so much so that she almost got hit by a bear as it speeds by. Now, let's stop here and talk about what we are seeing for a moment. This girl we are traveling with is clearly suffering from some form of mental illness. Every multi-option we have will contain an incredibly negative response to her question, potentially representing that little negative self-doubt in the back of every mind. Everything she is seeing is a warped part of her reality. The creature we saw in the groceries were probably strangers she so happens to speak to. The bear that nearly ran her over was just a truck going down the street as she overthinks about how to walk normally. And while that just might seem like a person suffering from anxiety, it becomes apparent that that is not the case once we try to snap her out of her delusion. This scene also plays when you choose a negative option 3 times. But take a note on what she actually says here, indicating that we are the medicine in her head, the very pill that supposedly helps her through her days. If you didn't push her to snap her out of her delusion, she will instead recognize that she is indeed in a visual novel, or at least her delusion created this very game to help her go through her day without any incident. She covers her face and squeezes down hard until she speaks to us, the one behind the screen, directly. I can't decipher what we are looking at, but she tells us about what's going on inside her head and how she's embarrassed to share the pain she's been going through. She doesn't want to talk about her condition and what might have happened, but try as she may, she eventually hinted at her trauma, something that caused her to always see in this reddish pink hue. She seems to live in an abusive family household. Her father jumped out of the window when she was young, which means that what we are looking at might just be her perspective from a higher place. It feels like she wants to get better. She wants to feel happy again and attain some form of normalcy at the very least. She wants to tell us more and open up, which might be literally represented by her opening up the text box on the bottom. But we interrupt her. Here's when I started to believe that we, the player, are different from the choice boxes. As I've mentioned earlier, these choices usually come with a negative option, which, when picked, will reveal even more about her depressing thoughts. When the choice box interrupted and urged her to go home, she then speaks directly to us once again, differently from when she addresses the choice box. The medicine wears off as she's back at her own doorstep. A bottomless pit stands before her and she just takes a moment to breathe. It's also mentioned here that she hears melodies in her head when she's on her medication, indicating that the song and sound you were listening to earlier is the same thing playing in her head. I would also like to mention that at this point in time, the choice boxes disappeared. Finally, she makes her way into the apartment. Milk Inside a Bag of Milk Inside a Bag of Milk is such an amazing game from a newbie perspective. And if you feel like this whole thing was interesting to you, then you might be happy to know that the creator made a sequel called Milk Outside a Bag of Milk Outside a Bag of Milk, which not only expanded on this short story, but also sound design. My gosh, the sound design. I haven't talked about sound design at all in this video since I feel that I am not knowledgeable enough to do so, but this game and its sequel has got to contain one of the best atmosphere I have ever experienced, and is such an underappreciated component in every single medium. But why does this all matter? Why did you just listen to me talk about something you'll probably never interact with? What is the appeal of visual novels? By now, I hoped I already answered that question for you. It's the beautiful world that someone crafted, and if you want to know what's so special about these worlds, then you'll have to walk around them yourself. Visual novels aim at making you feel more personally connected to the character as if you're actually there. This is not simply passive storytelling. Unlike most linear form of entertainment, visual novels allows you to explore different facets of the narrative and see how your decisions shape the world around you. This mechanic isn't just a gimmick, it's an essential part of the storytelling. It emphasizes the idea that our choices, no matter how small, have weight and consequences. But I get it. I think in today's culture with how hyper everything is and how immediate gratification hooks your brain, it can be really hard to sit down and read through something that doesn't explode every once in a while. Truth be told, I didn't finish many of these games 100%, and I've even dropped a lot of them on my journey here to understand what it is about this medium that makes it good. But there is just one final visual novel I want to talk about. And I'm not gonna lie, this game is the entire reason why this video even exists. One that perfectly encapsulated everything we've talked about and so much more. This is the absolute final warning for you to experience possibly one of the greatest visual novels of this era, and I will try my best not to spoil everything, but expect that I will spoil a lot. So, I implore you right now to try. I remember a week after uploading my horror game video that broke a personal record of mine, and while reading through the comments, hearting and responding, I found one that stood out to me. It was a comment on how distasteful I was being towards the medium, even pointing out how I practically threw bad misinformation without fully understanding the topic. And I love these comments. It's people like this that actually gives good constructive criticism while also sending me down this hugely misunderstood rabbit hole that ultimately inspired me to make this entire video, which I hope has rectified my mistakes. I always want to improve and I appreciate every one of you guys. Now, if you are ready, then let me show you why you should give visual novels a chance.
You're on a path in the woods, and at the end of that path is a cabin. And in the basement of that cabin is a princess. You're here to slay her. If you don't, it will be the end of the world.
You are presented with a lot of choices, most of which allow you to ask questions and understand the situation better. Have you ever thought that maybe locking her up is the reason why she'll end the world?
While I appreciate the mental exercise, we are running up against a bit of a ticking clock. Nevertheless, let me assure you, the princess is locked up because she's dangerous. She is not dangerous because she's locked up.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. He is the narrator, so I believe he knows what he's talking about.
A warning before you go any further. She will lie, she will cheat, and she will do everything in her power to stop you from slaying her. Don't believe a word she says.
There is another voice in your head. A voice of the hero.
We're not going to go through with this, right? She's a princess. We're supposed to save princesses, not slay them.
This guy sounds pretty rational as well. We don't know anything about this girl. Maybe she's nicer than we think. Still, I chose to believe the narrator, and the title of the game is to slay the princess. Inside the cabin lies a pristine blade waiting to be picked up. You can choose to ignore it and head straight down to the basement, but if the princess is as dangerous as the narrator says, then it would be best to have something with you.
The door to the basement creaks open, revealing a staircase faintly illuminated by an unseen light in the room below. This is an oppressive place. The air feels heavy and damp, a hint of rot filtering from the ancient wood. If the princess really lives here, slaying her is probably doing her a favor. Her voice carries up the stairs.
Who's there?
She sounds dangerous. It's almost as if she's the one in charge down here. Don't let it fool you. It's all part of the manipulation.
You can choose to answer her question or continue down the stairs, but in this case, I thought that it would be better to just get it over with.
Good. You're still listening to reason. You walk down the stairs and lock eyes with the princess. There's a heavy chain around her wrist, binding her to the far wall of the basement. She's so coldly beautiful. Is she really a threat to the world? Focus on the task at hand.
And there you are. Are you here to kill me or something?
The choices are pretty funny. Nuh-uh. In my very first playthrough, I chose to rush straight at her and sink the blade right into her heart. It was quick, but it wasn't clean. She didn't scream. In fact, she asked us...
This is it, isn't it? I'm almost embarrassed. I should have seen that coming. But I have to wonder, do you actually believe this was enough to kill me?
Before we can respond, the light leaves her eyes. Believing that I have accomplished my mission, I head back upstairs to claim my reward, only to be met with...
You open the cabin door, ready to return to a world saved from certain doom. Only, a world saved from certain doom isn't what you find. Instead, what you find is nothing at all.
So, our reward for slaying the princess is an infinite void of nothingness where I sit here and just exist. Well, With nothing better to do, and with the suggestion from the voice of the hero, I walked down the stairs to her skeleton and stabbed myself.
The end. Nice knowing you.
Only, our story didn't end there. You wake up again, this time in chapter 2, beginning with the exact same introduction by the narrator. You can question him about your experience, although he doesn't seem to remember our previous encounter. Still, I continue back to the cabin and saw that it is dilapidated. There's a mirror to our left, but for some reason the narrator does not notice it.
You walk up to the wall next to the basement door. It's a wall. There isn't much to see here.
When we reached to wipe it, it just disappeared, almost like it popped out of existence. Again, I took the blade and head down towards the princess, only to see that she is indeed still dead. Then,
before you have a chance to finish your thought, the top of a head appears from underneath the floor.
aw, she's kinda cute. Seeing the ghost of the princess throws the narrator off guard. Lucky for us, she doesn't seem to be holding a grudge against us.
Hiya, Keller. I was hoping to see you again.
The voice of the cold suggests that we try and slay her again, but in my head I knew I couldn't possibly kill a ghost. So I decided against that and wait to see what happened.
I see you brought that annoying knife again.
I felt really bad about how I straight up murdered her without saying anything, so
I don't know. I just wanted to leave. I still just want to leave.
if she wants to leave, then why not face through the walls? Well, guess what, bucko? She already tried that. She seems to know about some weird force that's trapping her here and requests that we help her escape. The only way to do that is...
But you can come and go as you please, can't you? So, let me hitch a ride. After
Oh my gosh.
you owe me.
Yeah, okay, I
Absolutely
mean,
not.
I do feel bad for her and I do owe her one. Do I get to keep control at least?
Sure, why not?
That doesn't sound very reassuring.
Well, come on in!
Princess swims through the air in front of you, pausing for a brief moment as her dark-rimmed eyes stare deeply into yours. There's a hunger in her gaze.
You're really trying to make it up to me, aren't you? Thanks for being a pal, Killer. I mean it.
What are you doing? Don't just let her in. How many times do I have to tell you?
See you soon.
Oh, now that she's in us, she can also hear the voices. See guys, I'm not crazy. Here you have an option to once again try to slay the princess, but I assume that means stabbing myself, so I think I'll ignore that. Though, being possessed is really freaking weird. Finally, at the end of the cabin, she forgives us for killing her.
We're so close. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If we get out of here, I won't even care that you murdered me anymore.
But as we leave, everything disappears again. Where the heck are we? The princess exits our body.
You actually freed me, didn't you? I'm outside. Thanks for giving me a second chance, Killer.
Don't mention it.
I think this is where I meant to be.
No. No! We gaze upon the mirror and saw ourselves. The voices disappears and we are now in this quiet place. As we approach where the cabin was, we see the body of the princess and a bunch of hands carrying her. This is the shifting mound, or an incomplete version of her. She requires us to bring her more perspective, i.e., play the game some more. You can ask her a bunch of questions, but in the end, I chose to go at it again.
She asks that I tell you to remember her.
She wipes our memory
You won't.
and kills us. What I just showed you is a very small segment of a route I took in Slay the Princess. The choices you make drastically change the princess and the environment, and I think that's why I like it so much. Every action has consequences, and normally games like these only give like a few change in dialogue or give you that classic illusion of choice where nothing you do actually affect anything. Everything you do in Slay the Princess matters. The game remembers what you said, it remembers when you are violent, and it remembers when you are not. The voice acting is simply incredible and actively helped with my problem of missing out on what's happening on the screen.
Your mind. Birth. Death. Birth again. Decay and bloom. A million stitches from a million microscopic wounds you've inflicted on everyone you've ever met, with every muscle you've moved and every word you've ever spoken. No.
Let me out.
Your existence hurts them.
Let me out.
A lonely soul in a room by itself, weeping. It lives for 80 years and then it's gone. And then it's there again.
The hand-drawn pencil art style has to be one of my favorite purely because it just feels like you can feel it, if that makes sense. I normally don't self-insert into stories, but this one really made me feel immersed. It really makes it feel like I was the one with the little voices in my head. Wait, that's already a thing. I couldn't bring myself to 100% the game because some paths are just cruel. Like, really cruel. There are many different interpretations, and I implore you to make your own. The whole overarching narrative, which you'll be able to understand once you've given enough perspective to the shifting mound, is that this empty void we keep seeing is called the construct, and inside the construct lives two beings. The narrator, being immortal with great hubris, trapped the idea of change and death in this construct so that hopefully he could convince us to destroy death forever. He is an echo now, and fully fades away right before the climax of the story. There are multiple endings in Slay the Princess, and none of them are considered true endings. It's really up to you on what you want. For me, I am fully against what the narrator believes in, and honestly like the ending with you accepting the shifting mound, because death and change are what makes life precious. But the ending I personally like the most, at least from a human perspective, is the one with the stranger. Much like the beginning, the pristine blade rests on the table right before the basement. When I went down to the princess, I saw her.
That was easy compared to last time. Just stairs. No weird fuzzy stuff or nonsense trying to pull us apart.
The very first taken by the shifting mound. I didn't get to know her from before, so I spent a lot of time talking to her. When asked for her name, she told us,
We're just a stranger. But that doesn't mean we have to be distant from you. It just means that we'll always be able to find new things to discover in each other.
She says she's seen and experienced all iterations we've been through, and yet we still surprise her with our act of not bringing the blade.
He'd hate that. So you should do it. Even if he isn't here anymore, it's the spirit of the thing.
Leave? But what would happen if we left with you? Would we exist inside ourselves? Are you sure you want to find out if that's possible or what that would mean for you? Is that what you want?
We took her hand and lead her out of the basement.
After so many iterations, so many different versions of us clashing and coming together and clashing again, leaving with you feels like all we ever really wanted. We can feel the threads of all the stories we've told together, all pulling us back down the stairs and into those chains where we know the outcome of everything that could ever come to pass. It's comfortable there, but it's confining. We want more. We want whatever might be on the other side of this door. Something new that we'll experience together, with someone who exists outside of us. With someone who can see us in a way we can never see ourselves.
You get a chance to tell her you love her and open the door to a new beginning. I'm not gonna pretend like I understood everything. Like I've mentioned before, this game has plenty of branching path and interpretations, but my personal read is that the stranger is the one that is the most herself out of all the princesses. As in, this is the princess with every vessel you could see in the game, making her whole. Slay the Princess multitude of routes all build on the idea of perspective and experiences. Every path in the game shows us what love really is, because with each chapter, you end up hurting each other in some way or another. But in choosing to better understand one another through proper communication, forgiveness, and genuine care, you and the princess persevered. and in doing so, found happiness. Why I feel that The Stranger is an even better ending than the first princess is because you've experienced so much together. She has seen every path you've taken, and you've seen all of hers. In the end, she is the same, but also different all at once. Change is scary, and despite everything that's happened, I will still embrace those changes and enjoy what's new. This video isn't about trying to change your mind. I am by no means a visual novel connoisseur, and in fact, still prefer video games with a little more interactivity in them. But I still want to try my best and educate those who are curious or at least want to learn more about this medium. I'm still new to all this, and I'm really glad I gave this genre a try. I for one also like to write my own stories and make my own games, and I think that stuff is incredibly fulfilling. So if you ever want to try, then go on out there and just create those worlds. You know, it's funny, I doubt that this topic would be interesting since I personally also started out believing that this genre is but a glorified book. But in digging deeper, I found the enjoyment of exploring these stories and even found some gold along the way. If the video doesn't pop off, then I'm okay with that. I really just wanted to make videos on things I enjoy and wanted to share. So thank you to the few that have made it to the end with me. Seriously. And I will see you next time.